So a very warm welcome to everybody attending this restorative yoga practice known as Rest and Renew. And for those of you that are live, it's lovely to be here with you in person. For those that are watching this on recording later, I hope you're well. And as I was just saying, you're going to need a few things for the practice today. 2 to 3 blankets, a couple of pillows, a chair or an edge of a bed or a sofa. As we go through the practice, I will explain about restorative yoga and what its intention is. But the most important thing I think to remember with restorative yoga is if it feels like it's an effort, you're probably doing too much. So we need to find ways of getting rid of the effort in the practice. And that is actually done by using lots of different pieces of equipment to support the body in different ways. Fundamentally, what we're trying to do through this practice is allow our nervous system to calm right down. Many of us have been in that sympathetic state within ourselves where we're feeling quite energized, ramped up, maybe a little bit exhausted from all the changes and all the things that we're currently being thrown. And this is a really great opportunity to use postures, to use breathing techniques, and to use meditation and relaxation practices to bring us back into a state where we feel more connected, where we feel more balanced, and where our nervous system feels less in that responsive state and much more in a kind of resting, digesting, and soothing state for ourselves. So the practice is going to take about 1 hour and 45 minutes. If for whatever reason, anything doesn't feel right for you, really listen to your intuition and let yourself move, let yourself be guided by what you know may be best for your body. You know better than anyone else what to do with your body. And it's really important that you remember that. I'm going to show lots of variations of postures for different reasons. Some will be medical reasons, some will be reasons maybe to do with injury or surgery, or maybe just some things that are happening in people's lives. And I'll just give different alternative ideas and suggestions of how to adapt or change some of the postures. So we're going to start off just doing about 5 or 10 minutes of just some really, really simple movement. So I'm going to take my way off to the mat now. And then we're going to start off. You might kneel, you might sit on a chair, you might sit on the end of the bed. Doesn't really matter where you are necessarily, but I just want you to take a moment just to bring yourself into a nice upright position. As you come up into that upright position, I would invite you to gently close the eyes and draw the attentions inwards. And just taking a moment just to be aware. Maybe be aware of sounds that are happening. Maybe there's things happening in the dwelling that you're in at this moment. Maybe things outside, maybe things going on inside. And those sounds are going to be present as we go through this practice. So we just create an open invitation for them to come and to go. We don't need to necessarily attach ourselves to any sounds or equally thoughts or feelings that we may have. I'd like you to take a moment just to allow yourself to connect with how you are at this moment. Just observing what might be going on for you right at this moment in time. And then what I'd like you to do is very, very gradually just flicker the eyes open. We're going to take a really, really gentle interlace of our hands and just do some really subtle and gentle movement through the hands. Just gently circling those hands around, just stretching through the fingers, through the fronts and the backs of the hands. And then we're going to go take the hands in the opposite direction. And again, just kind of letting them just move how they want to move today. Try not to squeeze the fingers together. You're just lightly interlacing them, just letting them move in a subtle way. And then we're going to touch our fingers onto our shoulders. Elbows are going to come wide. And we're just going to take some gentle circles around with the elbows. Just allowing those elbows to move, moving through the shoulders, just exploring how that feels. And then we're going to circle in the opposite way. And maybe noticing if one shoulder moves a little bit easier than the other. Maybe there's some restriction in the shoulders, around the shoulder blades. But just being quite light with the movement. Just this opportunity, just to encourage just a little bit of energy and blood flow into those areas. Fantastic. Then just bring the hands back onto the knees. We're going to take a really gentle twist over towards one side. And then carefully twisting ourselves back to center and then over towards the opposite side. So we're going to see if we can inhale as we come to the center point and exhale as you twist. Inhale through the center point and exhale as you twist. So just a couple more times. Just exploring how that movement through the spinal column feels. Essentially, most of the practice today is going to be based upon the torso and the spinal column. The support of all of the different vital organs from the brain down to the gut. Fantastic. And then gently bringing yourself back to center. We're just going to do one more set of stretches. So as we inhale, we're going to draw our arms up and overhead. We're going to take a really gentle interlace of our hands and turn the palms up towards the ceiling. And then what I'd like you to do is just shift your hips from side to side. So you're just kind of moving through the waist. And as you do that, you feel the sides of the body stretching. Now, if that feels a bit much, having the arms overhead, you can tap them underneath the back of the head, or you could just bring them back and just kind of wiggle from side to side. Just exploring how that feels through the rib cage, through the side body. Fantastic. And then you're gently going to release yourself out of this position, come up into an all fours. I'd like you to tuck your right toes under and just gently push back into that right heel. So we're just going to shift our weight backwards and forwards. And as we do that, we just gently straighten out through that right leg. Just exploring how that feels with those toes tucked under, just to stretch through the calf. Then we're going to do a really, really simple movement. So we're going to cock the knee out to the side, rotate it up to the elbow, and then gently extend it back behind. So we're going to do 3 of those circles. And then we're going to go in the opposite way. Fantastic. And then we're going to shift ourselves over to the other side, so to the left side, tucking those left toes under. And just gently moving back and forwards. It's a lovely way just to start to wake up some of those blood vessels in the legs, to maybe bring just a little bit more energy and awareness into the lower part of the body. And then again, we're going to cock that leg out to the side, bring it around to the chest, and then extend it back behind you. So again, just a few more of those circles around, just exploring how that feels. And then go in the opposite direction. Just one more of those. Fantastic. Bringing the left knee down. We're going to do just a few moments of cat and cow. So I'd like you to round through the back, gently drawing the navel in, drawing your chin towards your collarbones, looking towards your thighs, and then carefully lifting the sternum, lifting the eyes, lifting the tail up as the back goes into that dip towards the earth. And we're just going to move between those two positions, just exploring how that feels. Just one more of those. And then finding a neutral position with the back, and then sinking the bottom back onto the heels and just taking a gentle stretch of the hands away from you, coming into this extended child's pose. And what I'd like you to do is just gently rock from side to side again. So you're just squeezing into some of those visceral organs in the lower part of the body. Fantastic. We're gently going to push ourselves up. And I want you to just once more come back into a comfortable seat, just for a few moments. So you might be kneeling like I was, you might be cross-legged, you might have legs outstretched, but you just want a nice straight spine. So what I'd like you to do now is, as you inhale, draw the arms overhead. And as you exhale, bring the hands together, take them on top of each other and bring the hands to your heart. So as you inhale, it's almost as though you're gathering what you may need from all around you. And as you exhale, you're bringing that down to the center of the chest, to that energetic heart center. So it might be as you breathe in, you're gathering in the sense of energy, the sense of wisdom. And as you exhale, you're bringing that in to the center of you. And whatever you're gathering in could be whatever it is that you're intending or feeling like you need from this practice today. Just once or twice more. Really gentle, subtle movement. And then the next time that your hands rest upon your chest center, you're going to pause there. Closing the eyes. And as you close the eyes with the hands resting at that chest center, right at the energetic center of your heart, welcome in your wishes, your desires, your intentions for this practice. And allow yourself, if you're not sure what you need, just to create a space within yourself. And know that by having that space there, when your intuition or that inner knowledge, that inner wisdom is ready to arise, it knows where to come. It knows there's a safe space for it to find. So just another breath or two here, breathing in those intentions, those reasons for our practice today. And know whatever your reason is for being here, know that it's very welcome. Whatever your reasons are, they're all good enough for you to be here. We're gently going to bow our head towards our chin, just gently flickering the eyes open, allowing some light back in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come into a front lying position. So I'm going to suggest you might want to take one of your blankets. You might want to spread out that blanket and put it on top of your yoga mat. Now that could be a really, really useful thing to do because it can just take a little bit of softness or create a little bit of softness for our joints and different parts of our body as we rest upon it. So I'm going to show you with a blanket, but you might well find that you've got a cushion or something else. But what I'm going to do with this blanket is I'm going to roll it up into kind of like almost like a sausage shape. Then I'm going to bend it and place it in front of me. So this could be easily replaced by a pillow. You could use, something soft like a cushion off the sofa. You don't necessarily need that at all. It's just an extra addition. But what we're going to do is going to come and lie on our front. So we're going to be in this position known as crocodile pose. So you're going to, if you're using the support, it's roughly going to be around the chest area. Might be a little bit higher, might be a little bit lower. You might bring it so it kind of sits more on the sternum. That might be a little bit more supportive for some people. And then we're going to cross our forearms and bring our heads onto our forearms. Now there's a little trick that you might find here. A couple of tricks actually. First one is some people don't like lying flat down, can make them feel a little bit claustrophobic. So you could turn your head one way and I'll give you a cue halfway through to turn your head in the opposite way. So that's trick number one. Trick number two can be to do with the feet and the lower legs. And you might actually find putting something underneath your feet can be quite useful. So again, you might have a cushion, you might have a pillow. I'm going to use that bolster. But just having something just to pop underneath the ankles can just take a little bit of kind of pressure, weight off of the legs. And then, as I say, we're going to, if it feels comfortable, stack the arms on top. If it doesn't feel comfortable, just have them one kind of in front of each other. And then you're going to take your head down and either twist it to one side or the other. So this position, known as Makrasana, which is its Sanskrit name, or crocodile, which is its Western name, is a really, really amazing way to start to allow ourselves to bring our attentions to our diaphragm and to that lower part of our abdominal region. Now, the reason that we've come to lie on our fronts is this actually helps to stimulate the vagal nerve, which runs up the front of our body from those visceral organs, through the lungs and the heart, through the throat, and then into the center of our mind. So you might need to take some time to find a comfortable place. Notice if you're holding on to any tension or tightness. And know that it's okay to move, to shift, to change, to not have to stay here if you don't wish to. But if it feels okay for you, I'd like you to begin to draw your attention to your breath and just begin to observe the breath as it comes, as it goes. So you don't need to force the breath or direct it in any special way other than just gently down towards that lower abdominal region into the base of the lungs. Notice whether the breath feels fast or slow, whether it feels smooth or rugged. There's a depth or a shallowness to the breath. And if you turned your head, I'd invite you to turn your head in the opposite direction. So we're around about the halfway point of being in this position. So what will happen through the practice today is we will hold positions for set periods of time. And the supports underneath you are there so you can let the body feel free of any effort. So you can allow yourself to rest, to renew, to restore. So I have a poem called Just for Now by a yoga teacher called Donna Falls. Just for now, without asking how, let yourself sink into stillness. Just for now, lay down the weight you so patiently bear upon your shoulders. Feel the earth receive you and the infinite expanse of sky grow ever wider as your awareness reaches up to meet it. Just for now, allow a wave of breath to enliven your experience. Breathe out whatever blocks you from the truth. Just for now, be boundless, free, awakened, energy tingling in your hands and your feet. Drink in the possibility of being who and what you really are, so fully alive that whenever you open your eyes to the world, it will look different, newly born and vibrant. Just for now. So from this crocodile pose, I would invite you just to gently begin to let your breath start to deepen just a little bit more emphasis on the in-breath, bringing a little bit of energy back into the body. And then I'd like you to gently lift your head away from your arms. If, like me, you was using something under the legs, you might just gently slide that out of the way using the feet. You're then going to slide your hands either sides of your chest. With an in-breath, gently push yourselves up. And then we're going to take our bottom gently back onto our heels, coming into an outstretched child's pose. Now, the outstretched child's pose is actually going to be the next position that we take. So you might find as you come back, you might want to bring your big toes together and take your knees wider. And by doing that, it might create a little bit more of a sense of space and less pressure around the abdomen. Some people find with outstretched child's pose, bringing a cushion or maybe a stack of pillows or something soft that you could rest your body upon can actually be a really, really lovely way to give the abdomen something to rest onto and the chest as well. Now, I find as I come into this, it feels quite nice to kind of tuck my hands underneath what I'm resting on. And then I quite like to turn my head in one direction. And again, I'll give you a cue round about halfway through, if you're turning your head, to turn it in the opposite way. Some additional ways that we can support ourselves in our extended child's pose could be to give yourself a little bit more padding between heels and bottom. So what you was using as kind of your support for your chest a moment ago, you might find that kind of sits quite neatly underneath the bottom and the ankles and can just take a little bit of pressure off of there. Some people actually find that they need to have something for their ankles. So you might have that roll, that's probably a little bit too thick, maybe a little bit thinner. And you could place the front arches of your ankles on that roll. And again, it just gives a little bit of release for the ankles and the feet. Additionally, you might find you need to elevate yourself up a bit higher. So if you're at home, you might have a couple of yoga blocks. You might additionally have some extra cushions. So you could pop them underneath and just create a little bit of a ramp for the body. Additionally here, if you wished, you could put a blanket over you. It can feel quite nice to create kind of like a little tent for you to kind of rest in. This is a really, really lovely position to do after our crocodile pose, acting as a counter pose. So it just gives us an opportunity just to gently stretch into the back and elongate through that lower back, through that lumbar area. As some of you have been practicing restorative for a while, you might know other ways that you can support yourself that might be unique to your body. So please feel free to do something different to what I'm demonstrating here, if you know something works even better for you. So I'd like you to begin to draw the attention back to your abdominal area again. So this kind of lower area, just below where the respiratory diaphragm is, and kind of down towards those visceral organs. And I'd like you to really think about just letting that area, when you inhale, gently expand into the space or into the support that's beneath it. And as you exhale, just letting it gently, gently contract back towards the back of the body. This can be a really, really beautiful position to help release some tension from around the lower back, from the hips. But for some people, this just isn't a comfortable position. So if you wanted something completely different to do, maybe knees or ankles just don't like being there, you could actually lie on your back and just gently hug your legs in towards your body. So you're in pretty much the same position, just without having to deal with our body weight and gravity. So for those in child's pose, I would invite you to turn your head in the opposite direction. And the Sanskrit name of child's pose is Balasana. And just for the next while that you're in Balasana, I would invite you to just focus on your breath. Noticing the expansion of the in-breath, the turning point where the in-breath becomes the out-breath. the softening and releasing of the out breath. And then that turning point where the exhale becomes the inhale. And we always feel like there's this subtle energy within ourselves that starts that inhalation up again. And restorative yoga can really help us to start to settle that vital and subtle energy within ourselves. Allowing the breath to become even, to become smooth. There to be less effort in the breath. Noticing how the journey of the breath may be completely unique with every breath that you take. I'd invite you to very, very gradually begin to let the breath just deepen just a touch, just a little bit. And begin to bring just a little bit of sense of awakening or aliveness back into the body. Moving really slowly as you maybe bring the arms either sides of the chest. And then you may wish to really carefully start to bring yourself out of that position. You might find as you bring yourself out, you might want to move the things out of the way that you've been resting on. And you might just find quite naturally the body just wants to kind of do some really subtle moving. You might go back to do that cat and cow stretch that we did at the start of the practice. You might choose to do some gentle circling around through the body. You might actually just want to kind of come back and just rest again. Sometimes once we start to rest, it can create this kind of effect a little bit like dominoes, where we just start to feel like we want to rest even more. So don't worry, we've got lots more time to rest here. Know that this is your practice and it's an opportunity for you to do what you feel is right. So I'd like you to just come into a position where you can watch. Again, there's no rush to get there. I just want you to see what we're going to do next, because there might be a few different ways that we need to think about it, depending on what you have at home. I'm using this bolster, but this equally could be a couple of cushions that are covered with a blanket like this, kind of just creating a kind of oblongy sort of shape. You might have pillows So they could be like, if you have two pillows, you might want to stack them on top of each other. So you've kind of got two squares that you would bring on top of each other. But what we want to make is a kind of support for our backs. I'm going to pop something underneath this just to give a little bit more of elevation. So I'm going to pop that round about there. But equally, you might have some more cushions, or you might have like the end of the sofa that you could prop yourself up with something underneath, and with this kind of long support for your spine. And then what you're going to do is bring yourself to sit with your tailbone touching the end of whatever is going to support your back. You might also want something just to bring a little bit closer to you. So maybe some more cushions, or you might have some blocks, like some yoga blocks or something. So we're going to bring our feet together, but we're going to let our knees fall out to the sides. So as you can see here, these blocks kind of aren't really supportive for my legs. I actually need something. So actually for me, probably a cushion would be much better, but I'm going to kind of set myself up in this way just so you get the general idea. But equally, you could push some blankets or roll up some towels that could go underneath the back of the legs. And then we're going to allow ourselves to gently roll back onto that support. So our head's going to be higher than our chest. Ideally, just wiggle down a bit. Ideally, you want your arms to be able to rest on the floor. So you don't want your elbows kind of hovering off the floor. They want to be resting down. So if you need to put some things underneath your forearms to bring the floor to you, you could also do that as well. You also don't want to be lifting the chin up. So you don't want a sense of compression through the back of the neck. You want your chin to be down. So again, you might just find popping something quite small underneath the back of the head. So I'm just going to kind of take the end of this blanket. It might be quite useful. And just pop that there. Again, these are kind of all different ways that you might adjust yourself. This isn't a you have to, it's just these are all ideas and suggestions. So the feet are together, knees are wide in this diamond shape. Arms are going to rest out to the sides, palms could be turned up. If you find that maybe is a little bit kind of opening or vulnerable through the body, you can always rest the hands just kind of around the pelvic region. That can feel quite nice. And then this is where your sock or your tea towel or the edge of a blanket could come in, just to gently place over the eyes and just to block out any glaring lights that you might be able to see. So the Western name of this position is very uncatchily called I forgot now, bound reclining angle position. The Sanskrit name is Supta Baddha Konasana. Supta meaning reclining, Baddha Konasana indicating the position that the legs are in. So in this position, what we don't want to be doing is letting the knees drop so far out that we feel tension or pressure through the inner groin or around the hip flexor and upper thigh area. So that's why it's important to have something to bring the legs onto or to take that pressure off of the hips. Equally, we don't want to be holding any tension through the shoulders. So just allowing the sense of the chest and the shoulder girdle be kind of being able to rest and be soft. A sense of softness through the back of the head, through the forehead, relaxing the jaw, the upper jaw and the lower jaw. Relaxing the throat. the neck, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the upper arms, the lower arms, the hands, the thumbs and all of your fingers. And have a sense of from the fingers to the shoulders, feeling completely relaxed. And relaxing into the front of the chest, the upper back and the shoulder blades, through the sides of your rib cage, through the front of the ribs, the center of the chest and the sternum. Relaxing the abdomen, both sides of your waist, the lower back, the buttocks, the hips and the pelvis. Relaxing your upper legs, the knees, the lower legs, the ankles. Relaxing the soles of the feet, the tops of the feet, all of your toes. Have a sense from the toes to the top of your head, allowing yourself to feel completely relaxed, completely held. Your breath quiet, smooth. Your attention focused inwards. Just notice how it feels for the body to be still, the breath to have its gentle rhythm. Your mind an opportunity for it to be present in this moment. If you find the legs get uncomfortable in this position, know that you can just outstretch them away. You might find bending the knees and just letting the inner thighs knock together can also be a nice alternative way to give yourself some respite. And you might want to come back into those legs, being in the position where we started, or you might choose to be in that new position. Whatever suits you. the lower back feels uncomfortable. Sometimes just a slight repositioning of the pelvis can help. Just lifting the hips slightly up, shifting the bottom down, just maybe a centimetre or so. Can just take a little bit of pressure off the back. So as you begin to feel ready, you may wish to gently begin to let your breath start to deepen. And again, as that breath starts to deepen, you might just want to very subtly bring a little bit of movement back into your fingers, maybe into your toes. If your legs are in that Baddha Konasana position, you might just want to gently bring the thighs back together, bringing the feet on the floor. You might want to move those supports that you were using underneath the legs, just so there's a little bit of space around the legs. And then taking the feet a little bit wider than the body. Just let the knees just maybe gently rock from side to side. Just bringing that little bit of movement back into the body. Fantastic. You might want to stretch the arms towards the ceiling, maybe stretch them overhead. Maybe a lovely yawn or a sigh. And then we're going to bring ourselves into a side lying position. So you're just going to roll to one side. And you might just need to adjust yourself just to kind of bring your head onto what you might have been resting on before. And then we're going to bring ourselves into a restorative side lying pose. So I'd like you to just gently push yourself up. You'll be pleased to know this position requires a lot less equipment. We're just going to need maybe one blanket and one cushion. You might have two blankets rather than a cushion, or two cushions. So we're going to create something to rest our head on. And then what I'd like you to do is take your cushion, and if it's quite a flat cushion, you might want to fold it in half. If maybe it's a little bit firmer like this, you want to make sure that you can get it successfully kind of underneath this side body. So I'll show you what we're going to do, and that might then influence the decision that you choose of what piece of equipment you choose from around the house. So we're going to slide one arm in, so it's between the cushion that your ribs are resting on and the cushion or pillow for your head. That's a bit low for me, so I'm just going to double that up a little bit higher. So as you can see, my neck and spine are in alignment with each other. If I take this away, we don't want our heads kind of flopping down and pulling too much through the neck. We want to make sure that we keep those parts of ourselves in alignment. You'll notice I've took my feet into like a fetal position. However, this doesn't have to be what you choose to do. You might choose to have one leg out, one knee bent. The lower leg might be stretched, the upper leg, where you might choose to be like I am. You might also want to put something between the knees, and this can help just to take a little bit of pressure off the hips sometimes. And then you'll feel straight away in this side lying position, you've got this sense of slight stretch through the rib cage. Depending on how your shoulders and arms are today, you might just rest one arm on top of the other. That can feel quite nice. You might bring just one hand in front of you, and you might be able to kind of just rest it on your cushion or the elbow and kind of upper arm. You might also take your arm overhead. Now here sometimes we can overexert the muscles a little bit through side body. So I want you to be somewhere that feels comfortable for you to be able to breathe really well. And know that if you do take the arm overhead and it starts to feel a little bit too much, you can always bring it back to one of those other positions. You might need to bring it further in front. You might have more stuff, you might have lots of equipment at home. So you might fashion something to rest this arm upon in front of you. As you start to breathe here, you'll really notice the side ribs starting to wake up. You've got two very different sensations happening in the side ribs. One side feels a little bit more compressed, where we're lying on it. The other side might feel quite open. And this is a really, really lovely way to just help to gently create some space in the intercostal muscles. So we're just allowing our breath to feel where it wishes to feel in the body. But if you like to keep a sense of attention, then maybe thinking about the ribs being the place, or the side ribs being the place where you're breathing into. So that space kind of between the under armpit and the hip bone. Sometimes there can be a temptation here to want to breathe a little bit deeper, to maybe feel that sensation of the ribs gently expanding and contracting, but just let your breath be natural. So you're not forcing it. You're not using any kind of sound like an ujjayi breath or anything more energetic than that. Just a gentle, smooth, calm, and quiet breath. And knowing just by the breath alone, let alone what we're doing with the body and the shapes that we're making and the ways that we're opening our lungs in different ways, it will have such a dramatic effect on the nervous system. So we're going to begin the process of our gentle and quiet and careful transition out. So maybe starting with your breath and just allowing it to deepen. And then maybe just really, really gently sliding your hand down. Maybe bringing it onto the bolster in front of you. And then maybe gently pushing yourself up and away from that position. Really taking your time. You might just want to come back into all fours. You might sit back into child's pose, maybe resting on what you've been using as a support before. Just maybe observing how one side of you might feel quite different compared to the other side at this moment. And then when you feel ready, I would invite you to start to bring yourself onto the opposite side. So you might just turn around. I've just moved to the other end of my mat just so you don't have to stare at my back if you're looking at the screen. So again, you might find that you need to set yourself up in a slightly different way. Maybe one side feels a little bit tighter than the other. I know I need more of a support on this side for my right hip, so I quite like to put a cushion between them. It feels quite nice. Again, you might need to kind of adjust things a little bit just to take into account of the differences between one side of the body and the other. And that's really normal experience, that we will have different sides of us that feel quite different to the other. One side generally we tend to use a lot more than the other, just in our natural reflex and reactions. So over time, that can start to show up in the body. And these side lying positions or side stretching positions generally show that up most of all. So again, choosing where you place your arms, and that they're in a place that feels sustainable for you to be able to breathe well and easily. You'll know if you've gone too far because the breath gets choppy or feels difficult to be with. Sometimes the mind will want to distract itself and kind of try and draw itself away from what's happening in the moment. Some people find lying on their sides is really comfortable. You might lie on your side in bed at night. So maybe this is quite a usual experience for you to be. For others, it can be quite unusual if you tend to lie on your back or your front. You're just taking this time to let the body settle and kind of fall into its place. Again, where you feel able to breathe. Sometimes as we progress deeper into this practice, You have those moments where you almost feel like you've kind of dropped into that next state of rest or relaxation. If you've had those moments where you feel like you've kind of stepped or slightly dropped into those places, please don't be alarmed. Sometimes it can just be really unusual to experience that deep sense of rest. So allow yourself to just acknowledge what's happening, your natural response to it. Know that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. It's all valid. Please very gently begin to allow yourself that process of slowly waking yourself up. You may do that by using the breath and allowing the breath to get a little bit deeper. You might open your eyes and just allow what's around you just to come into your line of vision. And then as and when you feel ready, just really gently beginning to draw yourself away from the floor, really taking your time. And there's no rush at all to get there. You might want to come back into child's pose again. There might be some stretching that you do in some other way. You might just want to stay still and stay quiet. So our next position that we're going to bring ourselves into is going to be our elevation of the legs. So you might have a chair nearby. You might be using a wall. You might be using the edge of a bed or a sofa or just something that kind of is round about sort of knee height, basically. I'm going to use a chair just to demonstrate, but you'll get the general idea of what I'm going to do if you are using something else or a wall. Just because this is a metal chair, I'm going to put something on top of it, but you might have a chair that has got a nice kind of soft seat. Obviously, this is where our legs are going to go. But to come into it, you might just want to have another cushion nearby. I'm just going to show you what to do with that cushion in a few moments. You're going to also need something for your head to rest on. So again, maybe another cushion, maybe a towel or a rolled up blanket or something, just for the top end of the body. And then what we're going to do is come and sit kind of against whatever it is. So if your wall's there, you're going to sit against the wall. If it's a chair, sofa, bed, you're going to come and sit with your hip against it. And then you're going to swing yourself around. And obviously, if you're using a chair, bed, sofa, you need to make sure that your feet are kind of able to rest comfortably. With this back of chair, I've just tucked the toes underneath it. And then you're going to gently lie yourself back and bring your head onto whatever it is that you're resting upon. So if you are using a wall, obviously your legs are going to be up in this position instead. So you might find just being away from the wall a little bit could just take a little bit of gradient out of the legs. Means you don't have to keep the knees completely straight. You can bend the knees slightly. So the extra little addition that you might want to try, and this works for some people, doesn't work for others. If you've got any kind of lower back complaints, you might want to try it, because some people find this is quite relieving, but others prefer to be in this more kind of straight position. But you might find having another cushion or equally a towel or a blanket and lifting yourself up and popping that underneath the lower back can actually give quite an interesting sensation of kind of a sort of gradiated recline. So I would suggest for most people, arms down by the sides. However, some people find it more comfortable to have their arms out wide. You don't want to take the arms overhead. That's a little bit too stimulating for our chest and heart area. If you think actually our body's having to work slightly differently to propel the blood back up to the feet again. So if you have any heart conditions or high blood pressure that's unmedicated, so untreated high blood pressure, I would suggest don't do this second option. Just keep the bottom on the floor and have the legs over the chair. That also goes for people that may have glaucoma, or if anyone is on the day of their menstrual cycle and you don't want to invert yourself, you don't have to do that. You could actually just elevate your legs in a much, much lower way by popping something underneath your heels instead. Again, this can be really useful, putting something over the eyes just to block out the lights. And this very mild inversion, which is known as Virita Karani. Commonly known as legs up the chair or legs up the wall. It's a really, really lovely way to help with our circulation. It's a great one to do to help really bring our nervous system back down into a sense of its parasympathetic state, that resting, digesting, tending and befriending state. Again, what I'd like you to begin to do is just start to follow the journey of your breath. And you may find here, there could be a nice use of a mantra or an affirmation. So I'll offer both to you and you can decide which one sits most comfortably with you. So if you're using an affirmation, you just say to yourself as you breathe in, I am breathing in. And you just say that silently in your mind. As you breathe out, you say silently in your mind, I am breathing out. So that particular affirmation comes from the mindfulness practice. A slightly more yogic way of looking at that is to use the mantra so hum. So as you breathe in, you say silently in your mind the word so, but the O part of the so is as long as the in breath. And then as you out breath, the sound hum, you say silently in your mind, and the bit at the end is the whole length of your exhalation. So hum. So the so hum meditation or pranayama practice is another really useful way, like the mindfulness, I am breathing in and I am breathing out, to keep the mind focused in this moment. If at any point you feel the need to come out of this, you can do. Again, don't feel you need to endure this. Particular position is a wonderful way to help support you if you're feeling fatigued or tired. Especially good done after a long day.
So I'd invite you to very, very gently just begin to let your breath deepen again. That focus back on the inhale. And maybe here, just letting some really gentle movement be felt through the back of the neck. Or just rolling the head gently from side to side. Just to loosen up through the upper spine. And then whatever you're resting your legs upon, what I'd like you to do now is bend your knees and bring your feet where your knees were a moment ago. Just gently hugging maybe the legs in towards your body. If, like me, you've got something underneath your lower back, you might just want to lift up and just gently slide it out of the way. And really gently lowering down. The lower back would have been in a slightly different position to if you'd been flat. You can feel quite a nice release. Maybe you find yourself just wanting to really subtly and gently rock from side to side. And then what I'd like you to do is just gently roll yourself off to one side. As you roll off to one side, keep your head down really low. Because we've been in that inversion, it will have affected our blood pressure and actually lowered our blood pressure down. So if we already have low blood pressure, we don't want to come up really quickly or jar our minds or our bodies in any way. So you're just keeping the head low. You might use the hands like a little pillow just to kind of give you a little bit more support. Can actually feel really, really quite nice. Just let yourself just have a moment here. Now you don't have to worry about where you need to be or what time it is. I've got all that in hand. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff. Just let yourself just be here, just be. So our last position that we take for this practice is either going to be Shavasana, or you might choose to stay in a side lying position. You might come and lie on your front, like we was in crocodile to begin. So if you're unfamiliar with Shavasana or you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to demonstrate now. If you were needing to move furniture around, you might just want to come back away from whatever you were resting your legs upon or move it out of the way. So if you're choosing to lie on your back, keep your head pillow where it is, unless you need to adjust it for comfort. You're going to place maybe a cushion or a pillow or something about 2/3 of the way down the mat. And then you might want something for the ankles to rest upon as well. So I've got this rolled up blanket, but equally this could be another pillow or could be a rolled up towel or something. So you're letting the ankles rest on something. You've then got this bolster, which is supporting the back of the thighs. So that's the most important bit to support, because then that takes the pressure off the hamstrings and takes the pressure off the lower back as well. And then we're going to come back and lie. You might want to also put something over you, because by now you might start to feel that your body is starting to feel a little bit cold. And this is generally quite a good sign. This shows that our parasympathetic nervous system is really starting to kick in now. And the blood is basically more in the visceral organs and the digestive organs than it is in the outskirts of the body. So again, if you don't like lying on your back, you could come and adopt one of those previous practices that we did, side lying or lying on your belly. I want you to be
in a position that feels comfortable for you for about the next, say, 15 minutes or so. Again, you might use that eye support to block out the light. You might want a few blankets to put over you. You might feel quite warm, so you might want to shred off a few layers. Just tuning in with where you are right now. I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be sitting up. So if you would prefer to sit with me, you are more than welcome as well. So I'd invite you to take some time to allow yourself to start to really settle into that position that you've chose to rest in. Or maybe there's some form of wiggling and moving that you need to do to get yourself feeling really comfy. If maybe you're practicing in your bedroom, you might want to go and lie on your bed. A sofa can be really good to lie on as well. Making sure there's soft things under you, if soft is right for you, or maybe you need more firm things under you. But just making sure you've got everything that you need. So as the body begins to settle, and maybe you do a scan through your body and just notice if there's anywhere you need to adjust or move or change. And then take a nice gentle breath in. And then maybe a sigh or a gentle release or a yawn, letting the breath go. Let's do that again. A nice full deep breath in. And maybe a lovely gentle sigh, yawn or release. Fantastic. Just allowing yourself to feel the support from the earth, the props, what you've placed beneath you and around you to hold you, to support you. Those things that we have to nourish us. So the practice that we're going to do is called Yoga Nidra. And the word Nidra literally translates to mean sleep. But actually that's kind of an interpretation, because actually it really means an awakening. But it's by letting yourself rest really deeply that you become in touch with your true self, your true nature. So now as we move through this practice, there is nothing to achieve. There is nobody to please. There isn't anything for you to strive for, no deadlines to meet. And right at this moment, there is nowhere else you need to be other than here. So take another gentle breath in. And as you breathe out, this opportunity to welcome yourself home into this practice. Welcome home to your true nature, to yourself. So I'd invite you to draw your attention over to your right hand thumb. And there's no need to move it. Just allow your mind to be there and notice the sensations, or even offer a sense of welcoming home to that right hand thumb. And then allow that welcoming home to spread into the first right finger, second finger, third finger, and the little finger. Then into the palm of the right hand and the back of the hand. Then into the right wrist, forearm, the elbow, the right upper arm. And then through the right shoulder, the armpits. And then down through the right hand side of the torso, into the right waist and the hip, through the front of the right thigh and the back of the thigh, the front of the right knee and the back of the knee, and the right shin and calf, the ankle and heel, through the sole of the right foot, the top of the foot, and then into the right big toe, second, third, fourth, and fifth toe. The whole right side of your body is welcomed in, welcomed home. And then turning the attentions to your left hand thumb and that sense of welcoming home, that left hand thumb. And then allow that idea to spread into the left first finger, second finger, third finger, and the little finger. Through the palm of the left hand and the back of the hand. Through the left wrist, the forearm, elbow, the upper arm. Through the left shoulder, the armpits. And then down all the way through the left-hand side of the torso, through the left waist and into the left hip, to the front of the left thigh, the back of the thigh, the front of the left knee and the back of the knee, the left shin and calf, the ankle and heel, the sole of the left foot, the top of the foot, the left big toe, second, third, fourth, and the little toe. This sense of welcoming the whole of the left side of the body into this practice. And turning your attention to the back of your body, to the right heel, the left heel, to the right buttock, left buttock, the right shoulder blade and left shoulder blade, the back of the head on the right side, the back of the head on the left side. Have a sense of the whole of the plane of the back of your body. Drawing your attention down to the very tip of your tailbone, to your lumbar spine, the lower back, to the thoracic spine, the mid back, to the cervicular spine, the upper back, to the very center of the mind. Have a sense of the whole length of the spinal column, from the tailbone to the top of the head. Draw your attention to your forehead, to both of your eyes, to your inner ears, to your cheeks, the nose, to the upper mouth, the gums, the teeth, the lips, to the lower mouth, the lips, the gums, the teeth, the lower jaw. Allow the tongue to rest in the mouth. An awareness of the chin and the throat, of the right collarbone, the left collarbone, of that little space between the collarbones. And then drawing your attention to the center of the chest, that energetic heart center. And move your attention to the right side of chest, the left side of chest, to the whole of your chest. And then have an awareness of the front of your rib cage, of the sternum, the respiratory diaphragm, the upper abdomen, navel, the lower abdomen, the pelvic bowl. Have a sense of the whole of your body, the whole of your body, and allow the whole of your body to feel welcomed. Have a sense of the body from the soles of the feet to the top of the head. And as you breathe in, you allow yourself to breathe up the body from the feet to the top of the head. And as you breathe out from the top of the head all the way back down to the soles of the feet. And if you was to imagine the breath started beyond the soles of the feet, and as you breathe in, you breathed all the way up the body, and then out the crown of the head. And as you exhaled, the exhale started above the crown of the head and then drew all the way through the body and then all the way out through the soles of the feet. So you're breathing beyond the limits of the physical body, creating this sense of space, of energy, the sense of balance, and free flowing breath up and down the body. Please begin to become aware of the body resting now on the floor. Allowing the breath to maybe become just a little bit more contained within the body. And noticing the weight of the body, the support that the body has from what you've placed beneath it and around it. Those foundations that you've created for yourself. Allow yourself to tune in beyond your body and just an awareness of all of these other bodies that are lying and resting at the same time. Our bodies resting, our hearts laid upon this earth that we all share together. This sense of connection, community, and support. I'd invite you once more to draw your attention to the center of your chest, to that energetic heart center. And once more, create that sense of space or an opening to invite in any knowledge or information, anything that we may need to bring into that space to nurture us, to support us, to protect or to guide us. And as we begin to move out of this practice, I'd like to offer you an intention, maybe for that space, if you've struggled to bring something into that space. And that intention or affirmation is with great respect and love. Honor your heart. Honor your inner teacher. With great respect and love. Honor your heart. Honor your inner teacher. And with that great respect and love for yourself, you may choose to allow yourself to start to breathe just a little bit deeper. And you may begin to just suggest a little bit of movement, maybe some wiggling of fingers, of toes, maybe a stretch, maybe a yawn or a sigh. Maybe you hug your legs gently up and towards your body and you give yourself a lovely big huddle. Send some love to yourself to say thank you. And then again, I'm going to suggest you roll yourself onto one side and using pillows or arms as a pillow just to kind of stay on that side. With great respect and love, honoring yourself at this time. So as you begin to feel ready, once more, you might need to let that breath deepen. And then slowly begin to push yourself up and bring yourself up into a seat that feels comfortable for you. Remember, if you prefer to lie, you can continue to lie. You might just want to switch this off and just let yourself just lie and just take in what you've done. Or it might be that it feels really important to maybe close this practice. So just choosing what feels right for you. So as you bring yourself up into your seat, allow yourself to sit tall. Crown of head is roughly around about the center of your pelvis. We're going to bring our hands back through that moving mudra again, just 3 times. So as you inhale, just stretching the arms gently overhead. And as you exhale, hands come into Amanjali mudra and bring them down through the center of the body. Let's do that twice more. A lovely gentle breath in, energizing and lifting energy from the earth. And as you exhale, bringing that energy down into yourself. Just one last time. And this time, as you bring the hands down, turn them towards the center of the chest and bring them back to rest at the heart. With great respect and love, honor your heart, honor your inner teacher. So with my great respect and love to you all, I'd like to thank you for being here today, for allowing this time for yourselves to rest, for creating this safe space for each other to be able to do that. So I'll offer the word Om Shanti to close the practice. Om meaning the universal sound and vibration of everything. The word Shanti meaning peace. So I'm going to recite it 3 times, and if you'd like to join in, you can. If you'd like to listen, just listen. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May all that resides within me honor and acknowledge all that resides within you. Om Shanti. So just giving yourself some time. There's no rush. Making sure that as you progress out of this practice, that you continue to take that really good care of yourself that you have done through this practice. So I'm going to stop the recording. And thank you all for being here.